The budget is anchored around GDP growth because that's the starting point. Mm-hmm. You have to find a number that is acceptable of GDP projection. And then from there you can project revenue. From projecting revenue, you can then cut it up into spending. Mm-hmm. Now, if your GDP growth number is unreliable and is not credible, then it means the whole budget is not credible. Treasury showed us a GDP growth number of 1.9% in April. And everybody criticized it. All the stakeholders that came to the public hearings criticized that 1.9. They said it's optimistic. And the Treasury stood by that number until the fiscal framework was approved in the House. Fortunately, it was reversed by a court. A month later, they revised the GDP growth number by 1.4%, which means that all those people that were criticizing the Treasury's 1.9% number were correct by Treasury's own admission. Now they've come with 1.4%, and still nobody agrees with them with 9.4%, 1.4%. They say it's optimistic, it's still optimistic. Mm-hmm. And again, the Treasury is standing by that number of 1.4%. And I think, Chair, we need to mention somewhere that unless the GDP growth number is credible, and you know, I mean, we don't have our own macroeconomic model tools as the committee. But if you read through the submissions that were made by the FFC, by the budget office, by a lot of the people that came to the hearings, they don't agree that 1.4% is a reasonable number. All of them are saying it's over-optimistic, which means that the revenue targets will not be met because GDP, the base of the measurement of the projected revenue projections, which is GDP growth, is not credible. And I think that, and given the fact that the Treasury has not met its own GDP forecast for the last 12 years, 12 years, they don't meet GDP growth forecasts, and all the time, the stakeholders are telling them that you are over-optimistic. You are just showing us this number out of your mouth. We don't know where it comes from, but it is not realistic. It means the credibility of the budget is in question. Now, somewhere, somehow, I think we need to say this, because this is what the people, the stakeholders, the public participants said at the meetings, that the GDP growth number is over-optimistic and is not credible. The consequences of that number not being credible means the budget is not credible, because it is the bedrock, it's the foundation of the budget. You move from GDP growth projection, project revenue, and then cut it up, horizontally and vertically. So what we're doing now, because we'll be slicing it horizontally on Thursday, is that the exercise that we're engaged in might be an exercise in futility, because the indications are that that number at 1.4% is still not credible. Secondly, in this paragraph we mention Operation Vulindlela.
Which, Honorable, if I just want to say that I'm not trying to interrupt what you are saying, but the point about GDP growth is captured in 10.2. So in that report, it states that, yes, we are conscious of the fact that Treasury is consistent in missing its own revenue projections.
Yes.
So I had assumed that your input was to suggest that 10.2 be moved to 10.1 as the opening salvo of the issue. That's what I
are we still on 10.1?
No, we've moved from 10.1, now we're on 10.2.
Yes, yes.
But what I was saying is that the input you have made in the GDP question is in 10.2.
No, but I was going further than what is said here, because
Sure.
I'm saying that, yeah, it's correct that 1.4% and so on relative to, and so on. If that 1.4% is not realistic the budget is, so it throws out everything. Because so what we're saying here, we're saying the mistake that is being made is that 1.4% is optimistic, but we're not saying what is the consequence of that. The consequence of that is that the revenue projections will be wrong, and that the entire budget, because it is like the point of departure, it anchors the budget, the GDP growth number. So it's the consequence that I wanted us to capture, that the meaning of this 1.4% not being realistic. Maybe this time they got it right. Maybe it's realistic, but maybe it's worth pointing out that if it is indeed true that number is not realistic, as it has not been in the last 12 years, it means that this budget is based on they've built it on sand. This budget has been built on, the foundation is sand. It's not built